Okay, so I've got 3 lessons for life, and these come from my dad. And it's been a very, very emotional day for me because 20 years ago today, my father died. Unexpected. It was crazy. It was like, I can't remember exactly the time, but like 11:30 at night, and I'm sitting in London, and my phone goes, and it's really late at night. I was like, what the hell's going on? My mother's phoning me, and she literally goes like, your dad's died. So it was a massive shock, and 20 years later, I just want to honor my dad today on his memorial. And before I go any further, before I tell you these 3 stories, let me share with you the screen here quickly. So I think if I go there, you should be seeing, no, I want to be showing you, no, what are you seeing? I need to put this up here. There we are. Okay. So that is my dad. That's his favorite chair that he used to like to sit in. And I just wanted to share that with you in terms of that process. And then also this picture here, which is my mom sent, which my mom said was her favorite picture, which is pretty cool. Okay, so back to me. Let's go through these 3 stories of life, and it honors my dad, and it says a lot about who I am and where I come from. So the first one is I go to London, and basically I've already got my degree, my honours degree, cum laude. I go to London. I think I'm going to be CEO of a construction firm within 6 months, and I end up being a sweeper on a construction site, and it was very humbling, and I was very upset with life. Literally pouring concrete in the pissing rain. It was awful. And then I was sitting at a mate's house waiting for him to get ready. We were going out, and I was looking through the degrees, the master's degrees, and I found a master's degree in construction IT, and I'd already done my honours dissertation in that. And there were only 2 universities in England that did it. One was in Manchester, and one was Greenwich University in London. And so I went along to see the professor, and he basically said, look, we'd love to have you, but you can start next year. This was like the end of January, beginning of February. And I was like, what are you talking about? He says, no, like, we've already started, we're 3 weeks in, you can start next year. And I was like, no, dude, like I want to start this year. And, so there's multiple stories here, because like most people would say, okay, yes, thank you, sir. I was like, no, like my father taught me, where there's a will, there's a way. And I never gave up. And eventually he let me join. And I did a full-time master's on top of a full-time job, 6 days a week job, full-time master's. And what was interesting is when I got in that day, I remember phoning my mom and my dad, and it was expensive. I remember it was like £7,000 at the time. It only used to cost like £2,500 for a British person, but I was on an Irish passport, which meant I was a non-resident, and you had to pay 3 times the price. And my parents had no money. My dad had already gone bankrupt. And it was so interesting because like my mom was like, well done, that's so great. Like, I don't know how we're going to afford it. And my father, like, he didn't have the money, but he basically just was like, don't worry, son, we'll find a way. And it was interesting because he never actually got me the money, but he gave me the self-belief, and I ended up getting a double bursary and actually getting paid to do my master's. And so the moral of that first story is that, my father gave me self-belief to not take no for an answer. Where there's a will, there's a way. And there's always a way. And if there's a will, there's always a way. And so that's my first lesson for you. Where there's a will, there's a way. The second one, and it's a story most of you have heard, but the one around finances, where my dad kind of went to school, went to university, worked hard, became financial director of a listed company, invested, he made some bad financial decisions, blah, 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 blah. But the bottom line is, when he died at 59, he died broke. And I looked at the system. I was in the system. I was at school. I was at university. I had an honours degree, cum laude. I had a master's degree, cum laude. And I was like, and I'll never forget, like, wanting to do an MBA. And I got through to the final interviews for, I think it was New York or INSEAD, like literally one of the top MBAs in the world. And they were trying to sell me, because actually when you get to the top echelons of those schools, they're actually competing for you. And they were trying to sell me on why I should do my MBA with him. And I said, well, what will I become? I've spent my $200,000 to do my MBA. What will I be after that? And he goes, oh, you can be a consultant. I was like, I don't want to be a consultant. I want to be an entrepreneur. And he was like, oh, no one becomes an entrepreneur. I was like, well, then why would I waste $200,000? I might as well just take that $200,000 and start a business. And I think for me, the essence of this story was that having watched my dad go through all of the financial difficulties that he went through, and after watching him go the typical career path and work in the corporate world, and basically the big company like used him. I mean, my dad was effectively a workaholic, but like, you know, worked his ass off. And then when he got sick, the company just kicked him to the curb, like no issue. And I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'd rather take control of my own destiny. Success or failure, you know. And my dad tried to go on his own when he was 49 years old, and it didn't end well. He got cancer 2 months later. And so my attitude was like, when I was 25, I was like, right, I'm quitting this corporate job thing, because like I don't even have a girlfriend at the time, no kids. And if it goes wrong, I can, you know, sleep on the couch. And it's all about risk, you know. So in life, you know, what is your worst case scenario? And I honestly think the worst case scenario is living a life not fulfilled, living a life where it's not up to your purpose. And my father certainly taught me that, and I'm truly grateful that I get to live a life of purpose and meaning and impact, and, you know, have the freedom to make the choices that I want. You know, in honor of my dad today, I'm taking the rest of the day off, and I'm going to go out and watch rugby with my son, and we're going to go on the boat later and throw roses for my dad. And that's the freedom. You know, obviously there's a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, a lot of risk that comes with being an entrepreneur. But, you know, equally, it's the paths we choose, and having the belief to follow your own path. So that's the second lesson. And the third one, which is a bit of fun, whenever we went to a restaurant, my father would order dessert for starters. So he liked ice cream, and he would order ice cream. So we would sit down in a fancy restaurant, and the waitress or waiter would come up and they'd say, what would you like, sir? And he would go, ice cream. And they'd be like, pardon? And you'd go, yes, I want ice cream first, and then I'll have a steak or whatever, you know. And and the person would like look at him like, sorry, sir, like, are you joking? And he'd be like, no, like, ice cream is my best, dessert is my best. Like, why would I not start with that? And it's a classic example of just going against the norms. And you know, if I learned one thing from my dad, it was always like, just because society says it should be done one way, you don't have to do it that way. Like you know, and particularly if there's no real reason for it. And so yeah, I've spent a lot of my life challenging the status quo, particularly if I don't believe in it. And it reminds me of a poem that I did where I was at a men's event, and we went to go and shower, and we weren't allowed to shower or something, and this one guy was like, you can't do it, it's the rules. And I went away and I wrote a poem, and I said, who made the rules? You know, the same people that made the rules said that man couldn't fly, that women couldn't vote, that Africans couldn't vote. You know, at the end of the day, like, piss off to the rules. It's actually the laws of nature that counts, and it's within the laws of nature that you find your destiny. And so my wish for you, and to honor my dad, is that truly try and find yourself, find your own self-belief, find your own self-worth, follow your own path. And 20 years down the line, I honor my dad today, and I make this video with no intention other than to just share those 3 stories, to honor him, and to hopefully inspire you. Have a wonderful day. 1st of August, 2025. Signing out. Cheers, Dad. I miss you.